Hello everybody and welcome to our next guide. This time we're painting Drazhar, the Dark Elder character that came out not too long ago from Games Workshop. I really enjoy this model. It's a really cool model, a bit overly detailed, but that's kind of staple of GW, filling the stuff with detail. But I feel like we can get a really nice paint job. And for the first part of this guide, we're going to talk about my ideas as to why I am painting this character this way. When you're painting a characters, it's important to understand if you want to give it like a consistency across the sculpt, in a sense that I am painting a Dark Elder. Dark Elders have an emotional weight to them when it comes to colors, in a sense that you expect them to have a color. The same way when you're seeing an orc, you expect it to be green because of Games Workshop orcs. So I'm gonna be flowing my creative process into that idea, and I'm gonna keep to fairly dark colors with hints of light to suggest, a shining, non-metallic effect happening on the armor. But the overall scheme will be very, very, very low light, because I want this guy to look like a bad guy. I want him to look like a super happy-go-lucky kind of character. So for the colors, I think I'm gonna go for purple shadows and green highlights. That's gonna create like a nice contrast between the two colors, like a chromatic contrast. And yeah, so we can start from that. I'm gonna be having this green armor shaded into purple. We're gonna have some gold, because gold is a nice color and it works well with purple as well, yellow and purple. And then we're gonna have a bunch of grays in the normal non-metallic, and everything though will be shaded into purple, because I want to have like a consistency across the shadows. So let's start from that. What kind of colors do I want to go for? And I will let you guys into my process of choosing colors, because I have a bunch of them right beneath the webcam that you're looking at me from. And from those colors, I can pick whatever I want, right? So I think I want to use Chimera, mostly because Chimera colors have a lot of vibrancy in them, which means they will allow me to get a nice, strong green and a nice, strong purple. You can't really see the colors from the pots, because the pots have their own, gray tint to them. I don't know why they made this decision, but the purple is a very freaking dark one, and the green is also fairly dark, but we can make this lighter, of course. So that's gonna be the color of the armor. And if you want to know the name of the colors, we're talking about Chimera Phthalo Green and Chimera Violet. So these are gonna be the two main colors for the armor. We're gonna change them, and of course using ivory and black from Vallejo model color. These colors are a staple in my collection. I use them all the freaking time. You can tell by how weathered the pots are. So these ones are here. And then I will probably want some brighter green, but they are more like a secondary thing, like the last detail kind of phase for the the inscriptions in the weapon and the shadows of this thing here, because I want to paint this in a purple color. So we're gonna revert slightly the color scheme from these specific detail here, just to make it more pop a bit more from the rest of the model, because we want a bit more color in this. Not too much that it drags attention, but enough so that it looks different from the armor. So we're gonna have purple shadows here and green highlights in this fur that he has coming out of his head. As for the face itself, is gonna be using whites shaded into purple, so we already have the colors there. And what about the gems? Well, those are all the details we can think about later. The cloth, I do want to have it purple, so it's gonna be a fairly controlled color scheme, like a very simple. There are many color schemes in the world, in all kinds of art, not just mini painting. The one I'm choosing for this one is pretty much a contrast of opposites, so the purple and green are on the opposite side of the color wheel, which makes them contrast well with each other. It's difficult to control the colors, because if you go a bit too saturated with them, they start clashing and the model looks like a clown. So I'm gonna have to work with the desaturation, but hopefully it's gonna be nice. So let's start from the base coat of the armor. Okay, so we have the palette ready. As you can see, Chimera colors have very, very, very strong dark colors when placed on the palette. What you want to do with them is extend them a little bit. I don't know if you can see well, but if you have used Chimera or will, keep in mind that you want to extend the paint off of the palette, on the palette, to actually see the real color of it, because when it's so thickly applied on the palette, it looks black pretty much. So the color of the armor will be a very dark red. As you can see, this is fairly dark. I do want to kill some of the vibrancy from it, so I'm just gonna add some black and then some white, which basically means adding gray. And we have this color here now. Here it's slightly different. And I can add a bit more black. Basically, I'm creating like a gray purple, so I can have that as a shadow color. And from this, we can start base coating the armor elements and have our shadow color placed. The base coating is a base coating, so nothing is gonna really happen from here. Just make sure that the colors are smoothly applied. If necessary, do more than one coat. And yeah, you don't really want to brush strokes. Keep in mind that this is a very important stage of the painting, which means that you want your colors to actually cover. Don't be lazy, don't be like, well, whatever, it's just a base coat, because it's not just a base coat. It's a super important stage which you have to put attention into. I know you want to jump into the blending, into the highlighting, into the non-metallic, but everything starts from a base coat. So everything needs to be properly painted. Okay, so we're done with the base coat. I have done it on multiple coats, couple, 3 sometimes, just to get like the nice smooth coverage and cover the black primer. So this is going to be our shadow color, which means it's time to use the green. Now the green, it's also a fairly dark color, so I'm going to be making it slightly brighter. I don't want it to be super bright, but I do want it to be, you know, to some extent usable. And this is where we start sketching in the highlights of the non-metallic. This model is fairly simple when it comes to non-metallic, in a sense that you have a fairly clear idea of where the lights and shadows go due to how it's sculpted. All of these sharp edges, you can see, create a nice opportunity for contrast. So whenever you're painting these models, keep in mind that you want to have like a nice contrast happening. Also, don't forget your light source, so always prioritize highlighting from the light source. And as you can see, I am keeping the highlight area fairly small. It's very small. Non-metallic heavily relies on contrast. There are many kinds of non-metallic, many kinds of materials which have their own textures and their own way of reflecting light and glossiness and all of the things, but you know, we're looking for a nice looking non-metallic which will get us, you know, heavy contrast and work in favor of the mood we're trying to establish, which is, as we said, a dark, moody looking character. Okay, so you can see that I placed all of these greens and now the armor is looking considerably more green than it is purple. Some of these highlights I will have to reshape in a sense that I want to make smaller, but I will do it in the next step. First off, I hope that while you saw me paint this, you noticed that I added a lot of light, more than what would just normally be casted by a single light source coming from the front, right? And the reason is, when you paint non-metallic, one thing you really have to pay attention to is the reflected light. For example, here, I still have to do it. So I'm going to do it with you while I explain what is the purpose of it. Metallic objects have a tendency, not all of them, but the ones that we see in mini painting most of the time, have a tendency to be very reflective, which means that the light will reflect off of them also in the shadows, creating like a rim light kind of sort of effect. It's not really a rim light, but hopefully you understand what I'm meaning. Which means that you will always have an highlight happening in the shadows too. Now, this highlight I am painting now is the same intensity of the one on the leg, the normal one. And that can be considered odd, but keep in mind that this is a step process, which means that as we go further, we're going to keep these reflected lights in the color they are now, while the normal highlights are going to be much brighter. And that's going to create like an interesting metallic reflective look that's gonna be beneficial to our effect. If you are practicing non-metallic and you feel like it doesn't look good, no matter how much you try to think about this next time, because what really makes non-metallic look metallic, besides the high contrast, is also the reflected light. So keep that in mind. When it comes to this model, one thing I'm noticing is that this mid-tone doesn't really have enough contrast with the shadows. So what I'm going to be doing is adding a bit of black to create like a blackish purple color. I'm going to be thinning it quite a lot, and I'm going to be using this color to blend as well as darkening the shadows. So when you thin a color a lot, you create a glaze. As you see, the paint is very, very watery. And always keep in mind that after you create a glaze, you gotta clean your brush. Otherwise, you're gonna leave some of the thicker paint in it, and the glaze is not gonna have much of an effect. And with a clean brush, you can pick it up. And if you check on your thumbnail, you will see that the paint is barely creating, color. That's a good thing. It means that it's working. So I want to make a slight addition to this blackish color because I do want it to be purpley. Okay, this is good. So we can thin this down, clean the brush again, lose the brush into my dad. Okay, and work on shading. So I'll show you on the leg so you can see better, and then I'm gonna speed through the rest of the painter because it's gonna be much of the same thing. Hopefully you can see the leg well. Let me just check so you can have like the perfect viewing experience. And I'm gonna be dragging the pigment from the highlight I placed towards the shadow, making the highlight blend as well as darkening the overall composition. So I can do this here too. Yeah, I got the highlight. I'm gonna be pushing the darker glaze. The brush stroke is important. If you wanna have like a refresher on glazing, I have a YouTube video on the subject, so you can check that out. It's not on Patreon, it's a YouTube, so free to watch whenever you want. And again, we're just gonna be glazing all over to make these shadows darker, as well as blending. Might wanna add a touch more black into this. Let me move my light slightly so you can probably see a bit better. Okay. And again, I'm gonna be toning down some of these highlights, making them considerably smaller. And this is a work of patience. Keep that in mind. You gotta be patient. Let the glaze dry. Check how it looks after it has dried. And if you feel like it needs more strength, go for it and add more, but don't overdo it. Keep the paint thin. Okay, so the blending is fairly good. We can always fix it later if we feel like it's not working in a very pivotal part of the model, but for now we can just keep adding white and have like a much brighter green. This green has a tendency to go towards blue because it's a phthalo green. So let me try to add an actual green to this so that it looks a bit more, green. Because I don't want to take it to blue, I want to take it to green. I'm gonna be adding... yeah, flat green from Vallejo is good. We can give it some greenness. Keep in mind that when you're working with colors, they will reveal their true nature when you... I don't know if I like this. Do I like this? I don't know. This is fairly... I don't know, I want... I think I want like a green green. You know what I mean? Let me check my finger. I don't know. Let's try to work with the colors and see what happens. Let me add some white to this phthalo green, which basically turns into a light blue. But it has a hint of green. We can always glaze like a green on top later, maybe an ink if we want. We got that nice green look. But yeah, as I was saying, it's important to understand that colors are not equal, and you're not always working with a pure color that is like purely that color. Like in this case, this is the phthalo green. It's a green when you don't highlight it, when you just use it as a mid-tone, it's green. But the moment you add white to it, it reveals the true nature of it, which is blue. And that can, you know, put a dent in your work. It's not gonna put it into mine because I am okay using this light blue. I think it can actually be an happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. And as you can see, I am placing this color inside of the area of the highlight, kind of giving it a textured look. And I'm giving it a textured look because I know that if I had to smooth blend all of this, it would look kind of airbrushed and also less interesting. Like adding the noise to this is actually gonna be a good thing. So see how metallic this looks? Just one coat, boom, the leg is now made of metal. You're like, wow, how did that happen? Contrast, that's how it happened. Through the power of our Lord and the Savior, contrast. So let's keep working. See, like, I like it. It's still a green, like, in the context of the paint job, because of the purple in the shadows, this actually looks like a green. But on my finger, it's clearly a light blue. And that's like part of color theory, that if you ever plan on starting to learn color theory, be ready to have a journey that's gonna last your whole lifetime, because color theory never stops teaching you things. And that's part of what I want you to understand. Like, you're giving me money through the Patreon, and you're giving me money to learn things, and some things I cannot teach you. Nobody can. Because unless you're following recipes, which you might, if you're watching this guide, I'm telling you the colors and you might follow them out and be good with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, try to reason why color schemes work. Like, why is this color scheme so nice? It's like we have like this warm purple into a green that then highlights into a blue. So like you're getting so many different kinds of contrast happening. And if you understand the why things work rather than the simple, you know, copying a recipe, you will be able to emulate this effect for other colors and other things. So the way I'm going to be highlighting this, I'm going to be putting the emphasis on the highlights on the upper part. So the highlights on the chest and arm area are going to be slightly bigger than the ones on the non-chest areas. And see how freaking metallic looks. It's like an iridescent metal surface. It's beautiful, isn't it? Okay, I think we're good. The frontal view looks very, very metallic already, and we barely have started. Like I've been painting this for like 20 minutes. So what we can do now is blend, and blending over such a small area, it's gonna be difficult by definition. All I'm doing is just creating a mix between the green color I had and these light blue I ended up with, making like a glaze out of it. And when you have to blend over such a small surface, you will never really be able to blend perfectly unless you spend an ungodly amount of time. So all you're trying to create is the illusion of a blend. And by doing that, with a very thin paint, with the tip of the brush, and I wish you could feel how gently I am tapping, because it's like I am petting the cutest, rarest animal on the planet. That's how I'm tapping. And I don't want to break it or do anything wrong to it. And I'm just gently placing this color next to the highlight. And again, I'm not looking for a super blend, I'm just looking for the illusion of a blend. Because first off, I am okay in having some texturing happening on this material, because you know it's a metal, it's an armor. This guy's a fighter. He probably had been hit a few times in his life, and I don't think he's getting his armor reforged every single time, right? After every battle. So there might be some, you know, scarring due to the battle of the past. As well as it just looks cool because noise makes things look alive. I highly suggest you stop bothering about the smooth blending and all of those things that, you know, that are derivative of it, because they don't mean anything. Some things demand the smooth blends, others don't. This is one of those things that doesn't. Okay, so we're done with the blending. I did the same exact thing you saw me do at the start, just glazing, sort of stippling, sort of layering. If you care about the kind of consistency I've been using, this is the consistency. As you can see, it's not really a glaze, but it is more like a layer. But it's applied very carefully, stippled in spot where I want the blend to happen. And this is how it looks like. I think it's pretty cool. What we need to do now is take this to the next step, which is super highlight, super highlight. And now we can, you know, create the really shiny spots. These need to be super small, super small. Don't overdo this. I know we all love light, but light cannot exist without shadows. We kept the color scheme fairly dark, and we also want this model to look dark, so we don't want the lights to be too overpower everything, because this highlight is the sharpest highlight, which means that there won't be much of it. So you can just, you know, kind of slap it in, and then sort of blend it. But it doesn't have to cover the whole surface of the highlight. It can just be, you know, suggested. Okay. You can see that the leg is gaining a lot of brightness and a lot of shininess now. And we're gonna do the same on the rest of the model, just inside of the highlight area, without even fully covering it. We can have this little highlight, you know, just following the volume of the non-metallic without overpowering it or becoming like too strong. We just want this to, it's a glint of light, a glimmer. Okay, this is a glimmer of light. It's not the light, it's a glimmer of it. Okay, now that we have the light blocked in, we can blend it again. So we're gonna add a bit of the previous color. This is a constant in my way of painting. Sorry for the siren. It's a constant in my way of painting in a sense that I will work up the colors, exaggerating slightly the change between them, which means I go brighter than what I think should be correct, so that I can then mix the two colors together, the previous layer and the following one, creating like an in-between, a mid-tone, and that mid-tone becomes my blending color. Again, I need to be very careful because this color can overpower everything I've done so far super quickly. So I will sometime go back to my previous layer, like the actual previous layer, not the blend, and use that to sort of go back to normal and kill some of this highlight, because again, I don't want much of this in the model. You create the shininess effect by having almost none of this. We can blend like we did previously. The paint is layer consistency. I'm applying it on the spot where I want it to be. If you feel like you lack precision, in glaze. I'm about to say something awful here, but it's true, at least from my point of view. You glaze only when you lack precision to actually achieve, to put the color exactly where it needs to be. Because if you can put the color exactly where it needs to be, you don't need to glaze. To blend, you can just simply layer. Glazing has its purpose, and it's, in my opinion, not in the department of blending. It's in the department of filtering to change the tone, to modify a color, and all of that jazz. But if you can put the color exactly where it needs to be to create a blend, you can simply use a layer color. If you can't, because you don't have the practice, because that's what's all about, practice. It's not about skill. It's not about divine powers. It's just about practice with a brush. If you lack the necessary practice, then you can glaze. It will be much slower because as you glaze, glazing takes forever, and also as you glaze, you're kind of killing the colors, so you're making them look the same, which means you're gonna have to go back and reapply the highlight and then glaze again. But overall, this is how I blend. I blend through these layer color that I carefully place in position. I will wet blend sometimes, like right now, I am wet blending. I placed the layer color, I felt like it was a bit out of position, so rather than going crazy and being like, oh my god, I ruined everything, instead of doing that, I simply kept cool, picked up my previous color and just slapped it next to it. And they will blend. And this is how you can paint as well if you want to. Again, over the course of this Patreon, I will be teaching you all the little techniques that you can use to achieve everything. If you want me to paint something using a specific technique, please let me know. Because I work for your pleasure, not for my own, right? Like I'm here as a business to make money, and I want to make money in a healthy way, which means I want to help you. I don't want to help myself, I want to help you. So help me help you and tell me what you need, and I will help you out. Okay. So one thing I am feeling is that these colors, and now I am going to be glazing, these colors as these highlights are slightly taking a bit too much space. So what I should do is clean my brush, get some of the darker green I had, make a glaze out of it, and use that to basically reshape these highlights slightly so that they are smaller. I am preserving the highlights, I'm not killing them or anything. I'm just gonna be taking them down a little notch at the edges of the highlight when they meet the shadow, so that I can get a bit of a smoother transition happening, as well as a more controlled light. You can see that, like, this minimum change I did had a massive impact because I am creating more information, and the more information you create in your paint job, the better it looks, as long as those informations are placed correctly with sense. And it's not a failure in a sense that people feel like you have to do everything alla prima, as we say in Italian and in art, and that's not true. Like you are allowed to have some space to make mistakes and or changes. The color scheme, yeah, needs to be kind of good immediately, otherwise, like if you choose the wrong colors or the wrong values, then everything becomes a bit harder to achieve. But these small things like the size of an highlight and stuff like that, they don't matter too much. You can just change them whenever you feel like it. And again, I'm just glazing this color in, killing some of these highlights. Not truly killing it, more like blending it a bit more. Sometimes I place it all over the highlight, other times only on the edges of it. it's mostly due to the fact that I am seeing the light source in my mind's eye, and I feel like light is gonna hit this end very strongly, more than this one, because this end is more like parallel to the light source. So these lights could be a touch darker than they are on the other ends. But a touch, not like incredibly dark, like just a touch. A glaze is enough. And again, I can keep doing this as much as I want. I can take this paint job to competition quality and go participate in a golden demon, or I can call it done now. It's up to you guys. How much do you want to blend? How much do you want to do all of these things? I'm giving you the tools. It's up to you how you want to use them. I don't expect you to be doing an army like this, because, you know, that would be freaking insane. But maybe a character, yes. And how much you value the paint job on that character and how much you want to spend time on it, it's up to you as well. Okay, so as I'm looking at the model, the front view is very, very good. I do like it. I think it's going to be amazing, especially when I block in the other colors. What I don't like is the side view, which means the reflected lights I painted, they're not working enough. They're not looking bright enough for me to actually consider them reflected light. So what I'm going to be doing is highlight inside of them gently. Gently highlight them, and you can see that these footies are really looking, you know, more alright. I don't want to take these lights as bright as I took these ones, otherwise it looks like he's being highlighted by all sides, and then the purple has no reason to be there. This light is not generated by the sun or whatever it is, the light source. This light is generated by the sunlight hitting the ground and going back to the model. And light, like any other thing that has energy, loses power the longer it travels. So as this light hits, when the light hits directly the model, it's very bright. When it hits the ground and then goes back to the model, it has done more traveling, right? Because it went past the model, hit the ground, went back, and all of that is killing its power. Light is kind of weak, especially when it bounces around. It gets much dimmer, much quickly than when it's direct. So you want to keep in mind that when you design your reflected lights, you don't want them to be as bright as your main lights, or too dark though, because if they are too dark, they look like, you know, blobs of color and not actually reflected lights. But if they are too bright, they look like the model is being washed in light, and it makes no sense unless, you know, specifically you have like some plans for that kind of idea, which you can have. Nothing wrong with that. And I'm placing this color here just to make all of these lights slightly more alive. I will tone down this color. I'm not going to keep it as bright, but I do need it there as a placeholder for the lights. You can see that the arm is looking way more metallic now thanks to that. Okay, the lights are placed. We can blend them now. And since they are like secondary lights, they matter less when it comes to hierarchy. I don't want these lights to be as defined and nice as the other ones. What I'm going to be doing is just simply blend them through a global glaze. Place the light, and now I'm going to be toning it down with a glaze so that it blends with the previous color, but I still see the hint of the light in there. See that? it's still there. And you can glaze this as many times as you want to blend as much as you want. I feel like I'm gonna be happy with a couple of glazes. I don't think I need more than that. Let me highlight these foot here too. Okay, that dry. After that, we have to do the edge lighting, which is the least fun thing for me. I freaking hate edge lighting, but it is necessary, especially in a metallic. All metallics need to be edge lighted properly, otherwise they don't look metallic and then they suck. So keep that in mind as well. You want to edge light your metallics. Okay. Okay, so the main view is there. Let's edge light. When it comes to edge light, I'm not going to be using the brightest color I've used. I'm going to be using a color slightly darker than that. And I'll show you why in a second, but for now, let's just, you know, go nuts with the edges. Okay, now that we have this, we can do one final highlight with the edges and use pretty much pure ivory with a touch of the green in it, and do the edge highlights of the highlight areas so that it looks brighter, so that the edges follow the highlights in their brightness. Take your time, try to be precise if you can. If you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world, you can easily fix it, so don't put too much pressure on yourself. Okay, we're good with the armor. I'm gonna be spending a little bit more time finishing up the blending and glazing, fix mistake, but it will. This is how the armor looks like. Just, you know, smoothing out what I did through glazing and the layering stippling that I showed you earlier. And next time we see ourselves, I'm gonna be painting the face. Just we have like a character happening, because without a painted head, everything looks a bit eh. So we're gonna do the face and then the goals and the weapons, and then we're gonna be done. So yeah, I'll see you in the next guide with the face. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself.